Wheezy, I see you in here. 1 minute, please. Yeah, that one looks good. Welcome, everybody. My name is Josh, and this is Lines on the Path. So happy to be with you all tonight on a Monday night. Lil Wheezy's up late. I know it's probably a school night for you. I have so much to talk to you all tonight about, and I want to pick up where I left off the last few nights, but in kind of a different way, because I've been talking about how to abide in God and God's rescue and redemption plan. But what I want to focus on tonight is how the suffering and God basically freeing us to go and do our heart's desire, it sets us free to experience the darkness, to experience the agony of being separated from Him. And then we feel this desperation for Him. I'm going to try to get in deeper to that tonight and so much more. Lil Wheezy, Louise's already in bed now, he says. It might be because it's a school night. Welcome, John Smiley. Great to see you, my brother. It's so great to be here with you tonight. And I had a little technical difficulty with the stream, so I had to restart it. The first one accidentally bumped the go live button before I was ready to go live. But there's my brother Eric. Welcome, Eric. Great to see you. I'm trying to remember exactly where I left off last night. I know, it was kind of all over the place. But I was talking about how God let me try to think of the right words here, because I have thousands of pages of notes and I never know the right words for some reason. God, when He was devising His rescue and redemption plan, when He was creating his salvation plan in which He would save mankind from the grips of the enemy, of the devil and the fallen, He used a way that many people get angry at Him for. Many people claim that if you claim that God is loving and caring, that He would not allow us to suffer, He would not allow us to go through hard times, He would just give us a life of peace and prosperity and comfort, and that we should all just be basically mindless and bouncing around in this utopic wonderland. That is the idea of many. Then we have people who are going through deep struggles who blame it completely on God, saying if my loved one passed away, or if I am sick, or whatever the struggle may be, you immediately begin to blame God. But God is not ruling this world. God is not a puppet master pulling the puppet strings. God set us free. You ever heard that expression, if you love someone, set them free? That's exactly what God did in the very beginning. From the very beginning, He allowed us to go out and to worship different gods other than Him, to sin against Him, to be unfaithful to Him, to go out and to experience what the enemy was offering, what the devil was offering, because that temptation was there. We are all Adam and Eve, every single one of us. Everyone would have made the same choice, maybe in a slightly different way, but Adam and Eve symbolizes all of mankind. Our pride, our arrogance, our unfaithfulness. And we obviously think that we are different, we are better a lot of times. Maybe we are good people, or we are too bad to be saved. We have a range of emotions in these things, and it's true. There is a range of ideas when it comes to God. That is the reason we must wrestle with God. The first of God's chosen people, he named Israel, the Israelites, which means he who wrestles with God. And I was reading Acts 17, where Paul goes to, I've been talking about this a good bit, but I haven't read the couple verses. Paul goes to to Athens, and he's speaking to the Stoics there. The Stoics, the greatest debaters of the age, maybe the greatest debaters of all time, in the center, the heart of where they go to debate. This shows you that the importance of debate, of hashing out these ideas, of having a defense for the hope that is within us, as Peter says. So Paul, standing in the midst of the Areopagus, I know I'm saying that name wrong, forgive me, said, "Men of Athens, I perceive that in every way you are very religious. For as I passed along and observed the objects of your worship," this is important, I'll go back to this, "I found also an altar with the inscription, 'To the unknown God.' What therefore you worship as unknown, this I proclaim to you. The God who made the world and everything in it, being the Lord of heaven and earth, does not live in temples made by man, nor is he served by human hands as though he needs anything, since he himself gives all mankind life and breath and everything. And he made from one man every nation of mankind to live on all the face of the earth, having determined allotted periods and boundaries of their dwelling place, that they should seek God and perhaps feel their way to him, struggle their way to him. Yet he is not actually far from any of us. For in him we live and move and have our being, and as even in some of your own poets, some of the Greek poets have said, for indeed we are his offspring. Being then God's offspring, we ought not to think that the divine being is like silver or gold or stone, an image formed by the art and imagination of man. The times of ignorance God overlooked. But now he commands people everywhere to repent, because he has fixed a day on which he will judge the world in a righteousness by a man whom he has appointed. And of this he has given assurance to all by raising him from the dead." Now, I wanted to go back really quick to, "For as I passed along and observed the objects of your worship." I've said here, and I've quoted an atheist, David Foster Wallace, saying that in real life there's no such thing as atheism. We all worship something. And we do. Every single one of us worship something in our lives. Our nature is geared towards money, sex, and power. This is what made Christianity more evident, that its truth more evident, that it is the truth. It goes against the tide of that. It goes against the money, the sex, and the power. You're not accumulating status or wealth or power, or you're not going into Christianity because you want to go sleep around. In fact, you would do the exact opposite. You would reject Christianity for that reason. But whatever you sacrifice the most time, money, and effort for becomes your idol, the object of your worship. And the people of Athens, the men of Athens, had many of those objects of worship, which I believe they had been, at least at some point in time, maybe they were still, actual real beings. The Bible seems to say so. The Bible seems to say that these gods these gods of Greece, of Rome, of Babylon, of the world, of our desires, they are all very real beings. And they have rule over this world. They have a lot of power here. But the one true God is done with this. He absolutely gives us grace. Thankfully, he gives us grace, because we are all stubborn and we are all entrenched in this fallen world. But he calls us back to him. God loved us and set us free, and he's calling us home, each and every one of us. It's up to us whether we think that we want to answer that call. I know that the Christians here have already answered or in the process of answering. I know the unbelievers don't care. They say, no, it's not true. I get it. Nothing I can say to make you think, because there's no proof one way or another. But there is proof when you feel that presence, when you feel that peace, when you feel that love, and there's no denying it then. There's definitely illusions and delusions that Christians get, that we think that we have this spiritual experience and we think that it's God, and it is not God, because it's not going by the fruits of the Spirit. It is one of these nefarious forces pulling us away from him, because they use every possible angle, every possible method to remove us from God's love, to make us choose them instead of Christ. But the nature, the human nature going towards that money, sex, and power, the tide of culture completely going against everything Christianity teaches. The world has always been might makes right, even after the times of Christ, because Christianity hadn't taken hold yet. It was all about might makes right, the strongest stepping on the weakest to get ahead. Christianity is also the only religion that's mocked, because it's the one that's true. It threatens the enemy. Think about, I was thinking of just a few of the ways Christianity is openly mocked. And there is no way that you would see these public displays of just idolatry and disrespect in any other religion except for Christianity. Because why? Because the powers that be despise Christianity. They overlook our friends. I see Nazia was on here. They overlook the poor Nigerians or Pakistanians or all of our Christian brothers and sisters being slaughtered by the thousands. 2 every minute in Nigeria are slaughtered. They overlook this, and they say, no, focus over there on Israel and Palestine. Focus over there on Ukraine and Russia. Nothing to see over there. There was, this happened a long time ago, but there was an image of Christ placed in a jar of urine. There was a play that's really heretical in the first place, but it's called Jesus Christ Superstar, where they decided to get a black lesbian woman to play Jesus Christ. The Olympics, not this Olympics, because I haven't watched it, the last Olympics that was held in France, openly mocked Christianity in the Last Supper. 70 Christians beheaded in the Congo, and the media silent. But they will be all over some little incident that you know, yes, it's important. Everybody's lives are important, but 70 people slaughtered. No, let's go talk about something stupid over here in the United States, some political divide, because that's what we want to focus on. So these persecutions, this disrespect, this open mocking, it is more and more evidence of Christianity's truth, because no one would care about Christianity if it wasn't true. It wouldn't even be a footnote in history, the times of Jesus Christ. There is no reason for one of the smallest tribes in all of the Near East, and this tiny little nobody who's calling himself the Messiah, calling himself the Son of the living God, this poor man from Nazareth, there is no way that nobody would even be speaking the name Jesus Christ if he was not who he said he was. If he did not do what he said he was going to do and rise from the dead. Let me get to the comments. I know I'm way behind here already. Welcome, everybody. Wow. Casimir, my beautiful sister in Christ. And Fireborn, Nazia, God bless you. It is so great to see you, my sister. Nazia, I just saw before I got on here, and you'll have to forgive me, everybody. I've been beat down for some reason. I don't know why my pain is going a little crazy. I'm hoping it's just the weather, but I was not able to talk to my pastor yesterday. Yesterday, because there were two other churches in our church. It was completely chaotic in there. But I'm not very close to my pastor anyway, the one that the church I'm going to. So I'm going to try to talk to a pastor at another church that's nearby that I'm actually good friends with. And you may ask, why don't I go to that church if I'm close with that pastor? It is not because of the pastors. I go to the church that my girls fit into better. Sojo, welcome, brother. I know what you were going to say before you said it about Paul and the unknown God. It's one of the best chapters, and I'm going to that chapter there references Deuteronomy 32, which is basically explaining the origins of all religions, the non-Christian religions. I'm going to go to that in just a few minutes here. There's Joshua. Welcome, Joshua. An Armor of Faith. Great to see you, brother. Sojo said, atheist, if somebody that openly rejected the free gift of salvation but claimed they don't believe in God, it's a lie. There's our Creator tells us no man accidentally goes to hell or accidentally goes to heaven. That's right, yeah. But there absolutely is a lot of things. God works in ways that we can't understand. For instance, they might be like the Apostle Paul, very sure that they are right in their worldview. The Apostle Paul thought he was a devout Jew. He was a Pharisee, actually, a high priest of the Jews, very powerful, very respected. And he said that this Christianity business is a blight on our God and on mankind, so we're going to wipe it out. His whole life was geared towards tracking, torturing, and killing Christians until he was on the road to Damascus, where he was going to track, torture, and kill more Christians. And Jesus Christ, in his divine form, blinded him for 3 days and 3 nights, making him into one of the greatest allies of Christianity from one of the greatest enemies of Christianity. This is what God does. He does this in so many different ways. And remember, we don't know when people are going to have a revelation of God either. We don't know if it's going to be the last minutes of their life when they're an old man or woman. We don't know whether it's never going to happen. We don't know whether it's going to be 5 minutes from now. We don't know. It's all about struggling, as it said, feeling our way or struggling our way to God. If we do this, if we feel the suffering and the struggling in our life, we begin to know his nature. Not that he's in the pain and the agony, it's that the pain and the agony are not from him. The pain and the agony are when we are separated from him. The more you get to know him, the more you give your life to him, the less the pain and the agony even affect you at all. Until when you can fully abide in Christ, when you can fully give yourself to him, you can fully trust in him, every thought, every footstep, every action, every word, you won't suffer anymore. You won't. And how many people actually trust in that? I know many Christians, there's many Christians who get angry at me for even saying that. Saying, oh, you just don't understand what I'm going through. You just don't understand this. No, I get it. I get what it feels like to not trust in God or to not even believe in God. I get what it feels like to think that if there is a God, he's cursing me. He's evil, a tyrant. He wants me to suffer. He gets delight from it somehow. I understand that completely. I understand a lot of different points of view. I do. But not all of them. I'm not a mind reader. I don't know the minds of every unbeliever or every believer for sure. But I've been through such a roller coaster of trauma and tragedy and agony and suffering. And then have been saved from it all. I can tell you, no matter how bad the mental or the physical pain gets, I always tell myself to give my life to him fully, because you will stumble and you will fall. You will catch yourself turning away from him. The times when it happened a few weeks ago when I had two friends and my uncle and my dog and pass away. Then we got the flu going through the house and all this stuff happening all at once. When the ice storms and everything hit, there is a very good chance that I would have. I don't think I would have still been alive to experience that, because I was ready to end everything. But nobody wants to go through a time like that. Nobody thinks that is some kind of gift in life. It's not. What's the gift is how God saves us from that. What's the gift is the peace that God gives us, the hope beyond hopes, the meaning and purpose, and the love, especially the love. Love is patient, love is kind, love does not envy or boast. Hey, Shake the Stars from the Sky, great to see you. Aeon, does God create evil? No. He allows evil to happening. It is the opposite force of him. And I know you're going to point to Isaiah, 45? Go and read the updated translation of that. It is not, I create evil. It is that I create calamity. How does he create calamity? He is guiding us and protecting us, as a good parent does, but a good parent also has to respect the sovereignty of their child when they become an adult and decide, no, I'm going to go out here and I'm going to go and do whatever the hell I want despite what you say. I don't care what you say. I'm going to go and live my life. Let me be me. And you go out there and you experience what the world has to offer. One of the greatest, it's so profound, but the parable of the prodigal son, it is to me, one of the greatest parables. There's so many of them that are amazing, but think about it. Think about it in terms of actual, like, don't think of it as God. If you're having trouble understanding it, think of it in human terms. There's a father, and his two sons come to him. His older and his younger son come to him, and they say, "Dad, we really want to just go on living our lives. We want to go out and start our own lives. Can I just have my inheritance now? I know you're not close to dying or anything, but please, I'm going to go out and do what I want to do anyway. Please just give me my inheritance." And the father says, "Okay, I know you're going to go do what you want to do, and I pray that you find happiness there and go out, and I pray that you listen to what I've said and what I've taught you." The older son does. He goes out and he's doing what he's supposed to do after they get their inheritance. He's living on his father's land. He's having a farm. He's doing everything right. The younger son, the prodigal son, he goes out and he spends all his money on women, booze, and gambling. He does everything exactly against what the father had taught him. And the father's seeing this, and it's breaking his heart, but he is living it up. He is having so much fun. He's like, "Why would I listen to you? You've told me that all this stuff is bad for me, and I'm having such a great time. What a liar you were, Dad. What a liar you were. You said that this stuff was bad for me. You just didn't want me to have a good time. You just didn't want me to be me. I'm not you, Dad. I'm me, and I'm going to go out and I'm going to live my life to the fullest. I'm going to show you, Dad. I'm going to show you I don't need you in my life." And then he spends every penny that his father gave him. Every single penny he spent up. And then he's like, "Oh no, what do I do now?" He has to look for a job. And the only one who will hire him, because he's a drunk and a womanizer and not trustworthy at all, is a pig farmer. And the pig farmer doesn't pay him a living wage. So he's there slaving away. And the pig farmer is just an awful man. And he's hungry because he doesn't even get enough pay to buy his own food. So he's feeding the pigs in the trough. And he's like, "Well, I'll just eat the food out of the pigs with the trough." As a Jew, this is especially bad because pigs are dirty animals, but it's just adding fuel to the fire, right? Well, as he's eating his food from the trough with the pigs, he remembers the love of his father. His father always paid his servants a living wage. In fact, he treated his servants like family. His father was always kind and always tenderhearted and always there to lift everyone up. Servants, family, it didn't matter. He lifted them up and treated them warmly with love. So he thought to himself, "I'm just going to go back and I'm going to beg my father, please. I don't expect you to forgive me, but please, if you just allow me to be your servant, I will work for you honorably the rest of my life, the rest of your life." And so he's going home, and his father sees him in the horizon coming. And he goes out and he starts running towards his son, running towards him. And this is something that's you don't see men doing very often. He's pulling his toga up and he's running, right? He goes out there and the prodigal son's like ready to have him lay into him, and he says, please, Father, I know you should not forgive me. I have no right to ask you, but please. And he stops him. He's like, so great to see you, my son. He gives him a big hug. He tells his servants to go get him a robe and some sandals and a ring. What does that mean, the ring? It means he's not welcoming him back as a servant. He's welcoming back into the family. And then he's like, kill the fattest calf you have. We're going to have the biggest feast I've ever thrown. My son was lost and now he's found. And his older brother sees this and he gets horribly mad. He comes over and he's like looking in. He's like, what is going on here? And he won't come into the party, to the feast. And so his father goes out to him. And he says, my son, I love you, and what's mine is yours, and it always will be. But your brother was lost and now he's found. He was dead and now he's alive again. He was dead and now he's alive again. The older son, he was saying, I slave away for you. I am here slaving away every single day for you. Now, this is not something that everybody gets the first time. You can get a new meaning from this parable many times, but the fact that the older son thought that he was slaving away for his father, doing the works, right? The Christians who think I'm going to be saved by my works, not through grace, not by faith through grace. I'm going to be saved by my works, not trusting in the love and the sacrifice that Christ made for us. But the fact that the older brother thought that he was slaving away for his father, and the prodigal son is now coming in, and he doesn't deserve it, but he's being shown grace and mercy. And I guarantee you, for the days going forward, the rest of his life, the younger son, the prodigal son, will work exponentially harder than the older son ever worked. He will work in love and in gratitude, not out of obligation. No, he was not obligated to do anything. But when he didn't deserve it and his father forgave him, well, as Jesus says in Luke 7, I believe, it's whoever forgives a little, or whoever is forgiven a little, loves a little. Whoever is forgiven a lot, they love a lot. And that's what we see in the prodigal son. The older son doesn't think he needs forgiven. The older son thinks he's entitled to everything. The older son thinks that he's been slaving away. Why haven't you recognized what I've been doing, Dad? I've been doing everything right. The younger son is just grateful to even have shelter and food, not eating from a trough with the pigs. And he knew exactly what he was doing when he was out there spending all his money on booze, women, and gambling. He knew exactly what he was doing. He was saying, yeah, Dad, you were so wrong about all this. You were deceiving me. You were trying to tell me that I should sacrifice all these desires in my life, not live a life according to my desires. And now here I am doing it, and I am happier than I've ever been. You are such a liar. And he had to burn through all that money. He had to burn through all that desire. He had to feel the sting of his sins the consequence, the hangover of his drunkenness. He had to finally sober up and see, oh man, that was a lot of fun. And then it was the worst possible feeling I've ever felt in my life. My actions really do have consequences. My dad wasn't teaching me this stuff because he was trying to have nefarious purposes to try to keep me from having fun. He was trying to save me from this feeling that I have right now of hopelessness, of brokenness. But until he achieved that brokenness, until he'd been broken down into pieces on the ground, until he had felt the sting of his sins, touched that hot stove and felt the burn, he didn't understand. He did not understand. And the older brother still didn't understand that. The older brother was thinking, I've been slaving away. My dad, he doesn't care. I've been slaving here. How dare he? And we see how this parable applies to so many different things. And I've said it's got like first of all, the religious leaders were the older son, and the prodigal son was everybody else, all the other Jews. You have the Jews as the older son in one context of the parable, and the Gentiles who all went astray from God. That's another context. You have the angels as the older son and mankind as the prodigal son. Or you just have a good son, does everything he's supposed to do, and you have the black sheep of the family. And the black sheep of the family does not understand what he's lost. You don't know what you've got till it's gone. Okay, I'm way behind here. Welcome, Justin Harris. I thought I saw you there right before I scrolled down. Welcome, my brother. There's Trib Gun. Great to see you. There's Lily back trying to argue that the earliest gospel, Mark, did not record the resurrection because the end of Mark was not in the earliest scriptures. And yet, Matthew, Mark, and Luke all borrowed from the same notes as well. And Mark and Luke, or Matthew and Luke, both have a resurrection. It's ridiculous. We have some of the earliest writings from the early church fathers referencing the last couple verses in Mark, so we know. Here's the thing. It's a broken record with unbelievers. They will throw things at the wall, throwing crap at the wall, seeing what sticks. It used to be when I was young, and I believed it. You had the whole Dan Brown, Angels and Demons, and the Da Vinci Code stuff, where they were saying the Gnostic Gospels were the truth, and that the true Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, weren't written till hundreds of years after the life and death and resurrection of Jesus Christ. Of course, they didn't believe in the resurrection. There's all kinds of these claims. The Gospels are all, nobody really knows who wrote them. They're all anonymous. When the very earliest reference to any of the Gospels always had the Gospel according to Matthew or Mark or Luke or John. We can go and look at them, and we can date them from anywhere from 5 years after Christ. Some people are saying, dating the Gospel of Mark till as early as 5 years after Jesus Christ's life, death, and resurrection, to as late as 15. That's not a very big gap. 5 to 15 years, it's no big deal at all. And the other ones, Mark and Luke, as well as the book of Acts, were written all in the same time, all before the mid to late 60s. We know this by investigating and doing scholarship and truly digging into the events that happened. But again, unbelievers want to rip you from your faith. They do. Not all of them, sure, but what's the reason to keep coming and asking the same questions over and over and over again? I told you guys yesterday about the manipulative questions that unbelievers will ask, and it is something like this. It's like, who was the first president of the United States? George Washington. How do you know this? Well, my third grade teacher and my mother and taught me, and I read it in the history books. Do you always believe everything that your third grade teacher and your mother and books teach you? You always believe that? Like, well, no, I don't believe everything that I don't know. It's manipulation. That's what it is. Don't give into it. Don't let it throw you into doubt. I know one of the worst places online is the Christianity subreddit, where it's basically just an atheist subreddit. They're like, if you can't handle somebody questioning your faith and asking these questions, then maybe your faith is not very strong. It's like, no, well, people come to that subreddit thinking it's about Christians for Christians, but it's really about atheism. It's about questioning faith. It's the most Christians there are very progressive or deconstructed Christians. It's ridiculous. I can sit here and I've literally done this. You guys know I've overlooked Christians with genuine struggles and problems. And forgive me for that. Forgive me for every one of you that I've ever missed by discussing these things. Forgive me. I miss genuine seekers, genuine believers who are going through hard times. And that is not what I set out to do. I absolutely did start this channel to push back against the atheist claims. The reason we have to push back against the atheist claims is because they make the claims. And the claims that they make are usually either misleading, manipulative, or lies outright. Not saying that they all know that because they are going and listening to many different unbelievers and atheists and agnostics on YouTube or wherever, and they are just taking their talking points from them. It's what it is. It's the same things. There's nothing new under the sun. There's no new arguments against Christianity, but there is almost every single day, there's something new for the case of Christ. There is. The case for Christ keeps building. The case for atheism becomes more ridiculous. Yes, there's no way we can prove George Washington even existed or was the first president of the United States. There's no way we could prove that Jesus Christ walked the earth in the flesh. But we have overwhelming evidence saying that he did, and overwhelming evidence saying that he changed the world and billions of lives radically. Okay, so that doesn't mean he's God. No, it doesn't. We don't ever, and we will never have proof unless he comes down and gives us definitive proof. Maybe when Jesus Christ returns, I still think there will still be unbelievers. Still be. Like, this is all an illusion. This is all a deception. They're trying to trick me. Because people don't want to believe sometimes. They don't. It goes against their plans for life. It goes against what they want to do in their life. They don't want to have the idea of a God, because that takes control away from them, and they don't want to lose any of the control in their life. They don't want to relinquish any of that control. Any of it. And I understand. But there's genuine doubt that Christians have, that unbelievers have, and those things are absolutely healthy. What's unhealthy is what I believe Wes Huff said, when people deconstruct from their faith without reconstructing, that is just called demolition. There's nothing good out of that. You have to, in that case, most of the time, you see, not all the time, but a vast majority of the time, the deconstructed Christians will rebuild a religion of their doubt. Rebuild a religion of their disbelief. Why? Because it gives them justification. And there's an element of evangelism in disbelief. There's an element of evangelism saying, I must go and rip people from their faith. I must go and free them. Because look how free I am now. Look how free I am from the bondage, the slavery of Christianity, telling me what I should and shouldn't do. What a ridiculous way to live. And I give this so often. I say it over and over. Name me one worldview. One, I'm not just talking about religion, because obviously unbelievers don't like religions. I'm talking about philosophies, worldviews, faiths, spiritualities, anything under the sun in the entire universe that is more fruitful than Christianity, is a more fruitful lens on all of reality than Christianity. Name one thing that is more worthy of our trust than Jesus Christ. You can say, well, but I don't believe in, he's not really, maybe he was a real man, but he wasn't really God. Okay. Name one thing that is more trustworthy than what he taught. Then, the philosophy that he gave, the teachings that he gave, there is nothing that comes remotely close, because it's telling you to face your fears. It's telling you to dig deep inside of you. It's telling you to have virtue ethics, not just morality. It's not a book of rules. It's telling you that you need to look in the mirror. You need to see what you're doing is never going to lead you to new happiness. It's going to lead you to temporary happiness. And that temporary happiness is an illusion. You will be desperate for more and more and more. What are you going to have? Again, sex, money, power. Those are the things that we seek out. Our nature is all geared towards that. It's like, well, I want to make more money so I can get a beautiful wife, a trophy wife, right? Or I want to have money so I can have power over others. Because if I had power, because I'm so smart and I'm so amazing, I would do so much good. And people would have to listen to me, and that would be better for all of society if people listened to what I said. There's all these different paths you can go down when you're trying to justify living a life that, I don't need Christianity. Of course you don't. People can survive in all kinds of conditions. We're not saying that you need anything to live, To truly live, you do. But I know that unbelief discounts that. But again, there is no more fruitful worldview. There is nothing that comes remotely close to what Jesus Christ gave to us. And when you start living, when you truly say, okay, I'm going to humble myself and I'm going to live, I'm just going to trust in these teachings and trust that if Jesus Christ is real, that he's going to begin to guide me through life. He's going to show me who he is. And it will happen. But there's that paradox, right? You're like, well, I can't feel him, so he's not real, so I'm never going to trust in that. I'm never going to try that. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to go out and I'm going to be a stumbling block for others in this pursuit. I'm going to go and question them. Why do you believe in a book that was 2,000 years old? As Bill Maher says, and these sheep herders, a bunch of sheep herders writing a book. Yeah, we should believe in them. Why do you believe George Washington was truly the first president of the United States? Don't you think that you should start thinking for yourself? Don't you think that you'd be much happier? Can't you see how amazing it is over here? I don't have to feel guilty for going out and cheating on my wife. I don't have to feel guilty for going out and getting wasted drunk every night. No, I just do it. And it's so good. It's so good. Yeah, I get it. I get it. I didn't have any guilt for any of that stuff. Christ didn't come to guilt us. I know that many Christians live like that. I know many Christians are living in this shame. The only shame that we should have if we're a Christian is if we consciously keep doing these things. Because if we slip up and we give in to our desires as a Christian, it's not about the Catholic guilt thing or whatever that they have or the many Christians have. It's about grace. It's about relationship. It is all relational. Trusting in what Jesus Christ is doing for us in our lives. And in gratitude, we go out and we live a life that is more attuned to his teachings. Why? Because that's what you do for anybody you love. If you truly know what love is, you care for the other deeply, and so you will do anything to bring them joy, to make their life better. And our works are filthy rags. So what can we give to the living God who is all powerful? We return his love by serving others. That's what it's all about. We live a life of service and sacrifice. And we are so fulfilled for it. We are so full of joy. We have a sustaining peace beyond all understanding. We have a hope in the hopeless times. And those who try to be a stumbling block, there will always be those people. They can keep on trying to be a stumbling block because when you feel the love of the living God, everything changes. Everything changes. All right, I know I was talking for a long time there. I need to get that off my chest. Maybe it's because I've been, I don't know what the Christians think about this, but I think, like I said, my back has been hurting a lot today, so been witnessing some horrific things that some atheists have said and done to Christians. Not just atheists, by the way, but unbelievers of all kinds. And yeah, it angered me for sure. And I absolutely felt anger over it. Okay. Tate says, if you're saying there are no arguments for atheism, there are always new ones for theism. Josh, this is obviously bias. Name the new arguments for atheism. Either that or you haven't looked enough in the literature on both sides. I've absolutely been watching. I continuously watch scholarly debates. I continuously watch the most popular and the most studied atheists. I continuously watch them. In fact, what I've seen, it's really been surprising to me. What I've seen are, well, now Richard Dawkins has just been almost shunned by the atheist community because he tried to say there were two genders, I believe, and they didn't like that. But Alex O'Connor was another one. I watch him a lot, maybe more than most atheists that I watch. Alex O'Connor and Richard Dawkins both started going to church on a regular basis, not because they're believers all of a sudden, but they became cultural Christians. They went from saying that we should wipe Christianity and religion in general off the face of the earth to, wow, there's a lot of value in this. There's a lot of value in this. Wow. And there is no new argument. There's none. And there's no new arguments for Christianity, even though we find more archaeological finds that, by the way, the thousands of archaeological finds that never disprove what the Bible's saying, but always affirm what the Bible's saying. You'd think if it's just this made-up fairy tale that eventually you'd find an archaeological find, and it's like, no, this is completely wrong what the Bible says. But no, that's not what we get. You have people stretching things to say like, oh, well, we know Moses didn't exist because we don't find any record of this or that. And it's just stretches. It's just throwing crap at the wall. We've had prophetic evidence. We've had studies on this where, what is it? The chances of Christ fulfilling the prophecies that he fulfilled, that we know he fulfilled because the Bible says he was fulfilled. It is one with 157,000 zeros. No, 157 zeros after it. Excuse me. So I don't know what that number is, but it's a big number. It's what we call astronomically impossible. The fact that the scriptures are so intricately interwoven. It's what I was talking about a lot last night and have been. It's so amazing. You have my favorite evidence. Obviously, yes, I'm absolutely biased. I am so biased, by the way. I've actually thought of this before. I am so biased that there is nothing. Like literally, you could tell me, show me proof that we are living in a simulation. And I will say, find me whoever programmed the love of Jesus Christ into this simulation, and that's my God then. That is who I'm going to put my faith and my trust in. I don't believe that in a heartbeat, but I'm just saying, I've thought about that before. Because there is nothing better. Whoever devised that code is so far beyond anything that I could ever even think to put my trust into. There is nothing that has ever been more trustworthy and more worthy of my love and my affection and my time and my effort. Nothing. But again, I hear nothing as a counter to that. I hear nothing from unbelievers saying, no, well, we need to put our faith in humanism, or we need to put or naturalism, or okay, show me how that even comes close to what Jesus Christ is teaching. Show me this. Show me the data, since you all love science so much. Show it to me. I'll show you the billions of Christians who've been saved over thousands of years. I will show you how every single right that you enjoy, every freedom that you enjoy, has come to us from Christianity. I know how unbelievers love to throw up, oh, there was slavery in the Bible. Yeah, there was. There absolutely was just about every sort of bad thing that happened in the Bible. That's what the Bible is. It's God showing us what happens when we walk away from him. This is what life will look like. Oh, you don't like slavery? By the way, it's so funny because when unbelievers are like, look at, obviously the Bible is God's condoning slavery, so he's saying it's a good thing. And does it seem like when God allows the Israelites to be thrown into 400 years of slavery in Egypt, be enslaved by the Philistines and the Assyrians and the Babylonians and the Moabites, and over and over and over again being enslaved, does it seem like, oh yeah, God's like, look at how good that is? Don't you see how good that is? Or maybe, just maybe, it is God saying, do you like that? Maybe you should start treating others how you want to be treated, as Jesus Christ said. Maybe you should actually return the love that you would want them to treat you with, the compassion, the grace, not going to war in the first place, but definitely not enslaving us. Maybe you should do that. And that ideal that was given from Jesus Christ, it's what freed the slaves in the West, first in Great Britain by Wilberforce, and then it was talked about by priests and Christians before that, definitely. But then the antebellum South, where they gave their slaves a slave Bible, devoid of every sort of hope. Every mention of the slave and the master are equal. That we should treat them as family. These ideals, these virtues, this morality put into action is what changed the world around you. But we don't give him credit for that. I get it. Because we don't want it to be true. We don't want it to be true when we are living a life where we have control, where it is only us and nothing different. We make our own meaning, we make our own path, we make our own way, we make our own purpose. That's it. That's all there is. There's nothing deeper. There's nothing better. That's it. There's Leslie. Welcome, Leslie and Emily. Great to see you all. Barry says, I went 11 years without drinking, and then I turned 12. I lasted a few more years than you. Probably till I was about 14. That's right, Leslie. Once again, Groundhog Day here. It is. Again, I apologize for that. I do. And so I'm going to focus on what Paul was saying here. I was talking about the prodigal son, but then going back to Paul and what he was saying in Acts 17. And when he said, because the reason I got on this, by the way, is for he said, "For I passed along and observed the objects of your worship." And the objects of our worship are always what we put our most effort, our most time, and our most money into. Where the place where we tap that meaning from becomes the object of our worship, our altars. And it's no different, by the way, it is no different than what they were doing in ancient Israel and all the neighboring tribes, where they were worshiping these gods that were made, these idols made of gold and silver and wood. It is no different than that. If we are worshiping our power, our money, our fame, our beauty, even something healthy like our fitness, our health, our relationships with family and friends, you're setting yourself up for devastation always. And that's not to say at all that fitness and health or relationships and loving that relationships is not a good thing. It is. It absolutely is. But once again, without Christ as your foundation, it will devour you. The rain will fall on the righteous and the unrighteous, the believer and the unbeliever alike, and the floodwaters will rise and will rush against your house. And unless you have a foundation built on Christ, built on the rock, then you will be swept away like a castle made of sand. And I've given examples of this because I built my idols. I made my idols, my foundation on that sand, like the sandbar in the Outer Banks of North Carolina that people built on, and the houses just keep plummeting into the ocean. I absolutely built my house upon that sand. I worshiped my health. I worshiped my intoxication. I worshiped my family and my friends. I worshiped all kinds of idols. I mean, my shrine for all of my different idols was so packed full. You could probably find just about everything. Lust was there. Almost everything was there. And then, of course, the thing that I thought, as much partying as I did as a kid, I always thought, I was like, man, this is going to catch up to me. Everybody keeps telling me it's going to catch up to me, but so far so good. So I'll just wait until it starts, and then I'll back off. Well, it wasn't that. It was actually working out all the time that caught up with me. It was my back that went out, not my liver going or my, I'm sure my mind was deeply affected and everything by it. But so my back went out, and then everything, it just collapsed. As I said, it was that castle made of sand, only this was a very slow burn. It was like little tiny ripples coming and just slowly pulling that house, that sand castle into the ocean with it. Over the course of 13 years, it eventually just all washed away, and I had nothing left. There was nothing. This is going to happen to each and every one of you if you don't put your faith in Christ. It is. It is going to. You're like, you're ridiculous. I don't believe you. Okay. You don't have to listen to me. You absolutely don't. I am telling you. I am not some prophet who's foreseeing this. I am telling you. I have seen it over and over and over again. There is nothing or no one that deserves your trust more than Christ. That can give you that foundation. And Paul's telling us that. Paul's telling us those objects that you worship. I found the unknown God in there. And he has been made known through Christ, that unknown God. He has been made known. You have, if you say that you can't know who God is, but he's never shown himself to you, then you've never bothered to truly read with a genuine and open heart, read the Gospels, read the Bible, where he reveals himself to us. He absolutely makes himself known more than any other religion, any other God claim. Where they're like, oh yeah, here's Zeus, here's Athena, here's Ra, the sun god, here's Allah, here's this or that. And there's a claim. So I guess there's like a scant evidence because of a claim. But Jesus Christ is saying, here's evidence. Here is evidence of prophetic evidence. Here's archaeological evidence. Here's evidence of transformation of not only individuals, but the world. And it just keeps coming and coming. The Shroud of Turin, one of my favorite arguments, and there's more and more proof coming out that is the actual shroud of Jesus Christ. I know I've listened to the atheists. No, it isn't. All they can say is, no, it isn't. There was a thing in the 80s. And it's already been debunked, that thing in the 80s. Fireborn says, but avoid foolish controversies and genealogies and arguments and quarrels about the law, because these are unprofitable and useless. Warn a divisive person once and then warn them a second time. After that, have nothing to do with them. You may be sure that such people are warped and sinful, and they are self-condemned. Titus 3:9. Yep. Yeah. I understand. I see this, and I want to tell you, because I want to make this clear. I love the unbelievers that come on here. I absolutely do. Whether they believe it or not, I do. I love them deeply. But I'm not answering them for them. I'm not. I'm not answering them because I think, oh, they're going to suddenly say, yeah, I should maybe I should take this Jesus thing more seriously. No, I already know that they are hardened against it. I know that they are. I get it. I go up against these arguments for the Christians, because we will have all kinds of slings and arrows. That's part of, in fact, going to that verse in Acts 17, Paul going to the greatest debaters maybe of all time, the Stoics. It's literally where it's the heart of debate in Athens. You know, they would debate just about everything there. And he's going there and he's showing them something that there's a good portion of them thought was foolish for sure. But others are like, we'll hear some more about this. We'll hear some more about this. You're going to encounter also doubts, deep doubts, because there's going to be something in your life that will happen that's going to make you think, yeah, I'm just not, I know I was told that in my greatest times of struggle that God would show up and he would save me from it. And I don't feel it that way. Well, nobody knows how God is going to show up in your life. I'm saying in your deepest times of struggle, the reason why he shows up most during that time is because that is when we are most genuine. When you are broken down is when you are most genuine to yourself. You are actually able to admit your flaws and your sins. Because believe me, as a stubborn and prideful person and an egotistical person, uh, I absolutely know that I would not have admitted my weaknesses unless it was, in kind of a joking way. I would never get deep. I would never dig deep like that. But Christ is telling us to dig deep. He's telling us to go deep, and he's telling us to reflect. He's telling us you have a fear, you have a trauma. Don't sit there and do what some secular therapists say. They're like, I forget who this famous secular therapist is, like, wake up every day and just look in the mirror and slap yourself and high five. Just tell you you're awesome. Say, I'm going to love myself. And if you don't give any direction in saying love yourself, because we are absolutely called to love ourselves, not in the way we are before we are living a life for Christ. We're not. Man, I absolutely loved myself in a hedonistic type way. That's not the type of self-love that Christ is calling us towards. The self-love that Christ is calling us towards is a humble love, is a selfless and sacrificial love, where we give ourselves grace, not because we deserve it, but because Christ gives it to us out of that love. So when you are dealing with doubt, dealing with maybe the idea that you're not good enough, or what I hear from many Christians, one of the most common themes is, I can't stop sinning. I know I'm going to hell. Our brother TJ was literally died for this. Died for it. Because some Christian, I don't know who it was, planted it in his mind that he had to do the works. And it was salvation based upon his works. And I have other brothers and sisters who I talk to who feel the same way. It's like, I just can't stop watching online adult content. I just can't stop smoking or doing drugs and drinking. I can't stop, going and having these deeply lustful feelings, or these feelings of greed, or these feelings of jealousness and anger. The jealousy and the anger is deep in many of us, because of, especially when we self-reflect and we're like, I don't like what I see there. But we aren't supposed to sit there and feel this shame and this guilt over it. Where there should be shame to things. Yes, I'm ashamed if I go out and I look at online adult content every night, or I go out and, or if I went out and cheated on my wife or something, or if I just became an alcoholic. Whatever it is, I would feel ashamed for that. But I am not supposed to be stuck in that shame when I'm giving my life over to Christ. Because Christ gives us grace. We give ourselves that grace as well. And that grace sustains us. That love sustains us and allows us to move forward. And I'm telling you, the most important thing that I can ever teach you about deepening your relationship with Christ is to stop living in fear and anxiety, or what might be in the future, or guilt and shame, or what could have been or should have been in the past. Start living right here and right now, saying, Lord, what would you have me do? Where are you taking me? It takes all of the weight of that, takes that cross off of your shoulders, the weight of the world that is crushing you, you start thinking, oh man, I've got these bills to pay, or I got this problem that's going to happen, I got to deal with, or this job, I hate going to work, or whatever it is. Like if you're stuck in a bad situation, for instance, I have many brothers and sisters who are stuck in jobs that they hate. I'm like, well, you need to, first of all, you need to either leave that job or you need to trust in Christ more, because if you are despising anything that you are led to, something on a daily basis that makes you nauseous, then that's something that it seems clear that Christ is leading you away from. But are we listening to our own hearts? Are we following our own desires, or are we following Christ? Because if you're listening to Christ, he's telling you, go and preach the gospel. Maybe without even using words, to everybody at your job. Going to be a beacon of love and light no matter where you go. Yeah, there's a bunch of a-holes at your job and they're a bunch of jerks to you. Okay. Jesus Christ said, forgive them, Father, they know not what they do. Forgive them to the people who nailed him to the cross and crucified him. What, you can't go and show grace to some people who are being jerks to you at your job, who don't deserve it? We didn't deserve it. We didn't deserve any of it. We are absolutely all capable of deep depravity. We are all capable of doing quite literally the worst things if given the right circumstances, or the wrong circumstances, I guess it would be. And we just won't accept that. We won't accept that we could be that bad. We won't. We won't accept that we could end up like some of the worst people that we know, or that we've maybe even done horrible things or thought horrible things or whatever. Because again, it goes back to, we don't want to relinquish that control. We don't want to put our faith in Christ. But going on, Paul tells us that we are all worshiping these idols, that we've been worshiping these things of the world, these creatures, not the Creator. And that's what our desires are. They are the created and not the Creator. And then he's saying that God allotted boundaries for each and every one of us to have our dwelling place, to have our own gods, to have our own idols that we worship. The creatures, not the Creator, because we desired it. What is he talking about? Let's go to Deuteronomy. I know I used to talk about this a lot more. I haven't read it in a while, probably. There's a couple different verses in Deuteronomy 4:29 and 32. But Deuteronomy 32, 7 through 9 is, remember the days of old, consider the years of many generations, ask your father and he will show you, your elders and they will tell you, when the Most High, when God gave to the nations their inheritance. Okay, this is what God's doing. He's giving our inheritance, mankind their inheritance. Now he's going to say when he's doing this. When he divided mankind. When did he divide mankind? He divided mankind only one time, and that was the Tower of Babel. He fixed the borders of the people. And so he's making these territories and these nations according to the number of the sons of God. Now, the sons of God in the Old Testament always referred to the angels, or the B'nai Elohim, the watchers, the divine, these spiritual beings that that we called angels, but they weren't really called angels in the scriptures. An angel is actually a job title, not a thing. An angel is actually somebody who is a messenger of God. But the Lord's portion is his people. Jacob is Israel, his allotted heritage. So God, of all the world, he kept Israel as his inheritance that he kept for his own. Now, what was happening during the time of the Tower of Babel? Well, the great flood of Noah had just happened to get rid of all of the evil, all of this evil that had threatened our very existence. God allowed, I believe, the way he allowed the flood to happen was he allowed the Nephilim, which is who? In Genesis 6, it says that the fallen angels, the sons of God, rebellious heavenly host, they came down, and this is detailed more in First Enoch, by the way. They came down and they all decided, we are going to marry earth women and have children by them. And their children were called the Nephilim. You can call the fallen angels the gods, the small g gods, and you can call their children the demigods, because that's who they were, by the way. It's who the Bible says that they were. And he allowed them to, or they came down to rebel against God for one reason and one reason only. Because mankind had something that they coveted so desperately. And that thing that we had was dominion. It was our birthright. God gave us dominion over the whole earth in Genesis 1. Dominion over all the birds in the sky and fish in the sea and all the plants and the animals and everything. It was ours. And it remains ours. Except for every single one of us. Every one of us are Adam and Eve. Every one of us will make the same exact decision that Adam and Eve made in one way, shape, or form. It is our nature. Remember, our nature is geared towards money, sex, and power. Pride. Our desires. As John said, the pride of life, the pride of the eyes, the desires of the flesh. Those are the things we covet. Just like it said in Genesis 3, in the Garden of Eden. Every single one of us will make that same decision. And so we desired what was given dominion of the fallen angels. The fallen angels, the sons of God, the heavenly host, the watchers, whatever you want to call them, the gods, small g gods, they had dominion over the powers. Our desires depended on them. And we had dominion over the earth, the territory, the physical realm. And they didn't have to give us anything except for lend us a little bit of their power for us to be able to give up our entire birthright. And when they had children who were half human, half angel, half watcher, they then had established their dominion. And that is how you see in many passages in the New Testament, Jesus says, and the Bible says, and Paul says, and that the devil is the ruler of this place. He has dominion and authority over all of the earth. And that's what Jesus came to free us from. He came to get back the birthright of our dominion that we had foolishly given away. Foolishly given away. For no more than just some shiny, jingling keys. some shiny things. Power over others. Pharmakia, which is sorcery or pharmaceuticals, or most likely, by the way, talking about things like hallucinogenic drugs, things where we could be enlightened, as the world calls enlightened. So God came to get rid of all of this deep evil, because these gods and demigods, the mighty men, the heroes of renown, is what they call the Nephilim. These gods and demigods despised mankind, enslaved us, and then their numbers began to increase so much that they went to war with each other. And I believe that's how God just allowed the earth to be destroyed, the flood to happen. You had literal, almost titans clashing. You had beings that were more powerful than nuclear bombs, just going at it with each other. And it caused so much destruction on the earth. I believe, some kind of trauma happened. Maybe the poles shifted because of all the destruction, and it melted all the glaciers and it flooded the whole earth. That's just my theory, but then the remnants of the flood happened, and the Tower of Babel was being built. And the Tower of Babel was when God divided mankind. Let's go to Genesis 11. Let's see here. Now the whole earth had one language and the same words. As the people migrated from the east, they found a plain in the land of Shinar and settled there. And they said to one another, "Come, let us make bricks and burn them thoroughly." And then they had brick for stone and bitumen for mortar. Then they said, "Come, let us build ourselves a city and a tower with its tops in the heavens, and let us make a name for ourselves, lest we be dispersed over the face of the whole earth." And the Lord came down to see the city and the tower which the children of man had built. And the Lord said, "Behold, they are one people, and they have all the language. And this is the only the beginning of what they will do. And nothing that they propose to do now will be impossible to them. Come, let us go down there and confuse their language, so that they may not understand one another's speech." So the Lord dispersed them from there to the face of all the earth, and they left off building the city. Therefore its name was called Babel, because there the Lord confused the language of all the earth, and from there the Lord dispersed them all over the face of the earth. And the leader of Babel was a man named Nimrod. And Nimrod, if you go back to Genesis 10, I believe. Let's see if I can find. Yep. Here we go. Genesis 10. It's just going through the genealogy, and it says in verse 9. In verse 8 and 9, Cush fathered Nimrod. He was the first on earth to be a mighty man. No, that language is important, right? He was a mighty hunter before the Lord. Therefore it is said, like Nimrod, a mighty hunter before the Lord. Also Esau, Jacob's brother, Jacob's brother and Isaac's son, was called a mighty hunter. So somehow these people were beginning to figure out how to gain immortality. This is important because Nimrod was the leader of Babylon, and he was the one leading them to build the Tower of Babel. And God was not like, oh, they're doing technological things. They're making some beautiful tower that's so tall. I got to stop them because I'm a mean and tyrant God. No, it is going back to this problem with evil. In Genesis 6, it says in verse 4, the Nephilim were on the earth in those days and also afterward, when the sons of man came into the sons of God came into the daughters of man, and they bore children to them. They were the mighty men who were of old, the men of renown. Every single bit of different language, it's the same language used in Genesis 9 there for Nimrod. He was the first to become a mighty man. He became immortal just like these Nephilim. And then Esau was another. Esau actually, in the book of Jasher, killed Nimrod, which Jasher is mentioned several times in the scripture, so that's the only reason I take it seriously. But we're seeing something deeper than just some people disobeying God, not dispersing all over the face of the earth and being fruitful, multiplying. That's what he told the people after the flood, by the way. Go, be fruitful, multiply all over the face of the earth. Populate all the land. They said, no, we want what we had before when we were slaves to these mighty gods of the fallen angels and the Nephilim. We want that once again because they gave us, yes, they enslaved us, but here's what it would be like. And if you can't understand why they coveted this again, because you're like, oh, they were enslaved. Well, first of all, is it the type of slavery that we're thinking of, or is it the type of slavery that Paul says that we're in right now, a slave to our sins? Because if you read just about, including the Enoch, by the way, but just about every other polytheistic religion, and the only reason I take those seriously, and I'm not saying that we should believe everything that's in them, but we look to them to see how they correspond with the Bible, and they correspond almost perfectly with the Bible. Because these are the rebellious heavenly host, the rebellious angels, these gods, and their children, the demigods. And we see in, for instance, the story of Poseidon having children like Atlantis or Atlas. And Atlas was the ruler of the capital city of Atlantis. And there was like 11 different cities in that great nation that Plato wrote about. And that great nation was so technologically advanced, it was some kind of what the world would call a utopia. But what happened? A great flood came and washed it all away. A great flood. And by the way, the great flood is mentioned in 187 different religions all around the earth. In the Americas and Asia and India, Africa, I believe Russia, I'm not sure about that. All over, that great flood is mentioned. And so we see these different religions were told in the Bible who they were and what they were doing and why. We look at the gods like Zeus. I mentioned Zeus and all these Greek gods because they were probably the most famous. What did these gods do? They would come down to the earth and they would lay with women and get them pregnant. And they despised mankind, except for we were their playthings. As much as we could offer them, that's the only reason they cared about us. Why was that? Because we had what they wanted, which was dominion. And they had what we wanted, which was power. And so the relationship strengthened. But in serving these unloving, impersonal gods, these creatures, not the creator, mankind began to feel this desperation for something unknown. And in that suffering and in that struggling is what Paul said. He mentions God allotted these borders. That is exactly what Deuteronomy 32 says. God is giving us all of these different nations with all of these different gods. And the more that we worship them and the longer we live under their reign of terror, they give us things of our desire, but we are never fulfilled. They give us money and power and sex and all kinds of things, beauty, and we are never satisfied. We will never have enough money. We will never have enough power. We will always feel small and poor and weak. If we worship beauty, we will always feel ugly. And this is what God is showing not just the Israelites in the Old Testament. He's allowing the prodigal sons of the Gentiles who all worship these gods to find out the hard way. Paul says, through our struggles, we kind of feel our way to the one true God. And when he makes himself known to us through Christ, it becomes so obvious. This is what we're missing. This is what we've been missing all along. These gods, man, yeah, it was fun while it lasted for a little bit. But as I got older in my life, I realized money's not going to bring me happiness. Sure, it's nice to have a little bit of it at least. Some money so you can do what you want and go where you will. The more money you have, the more problems you have. No money, no problems, right? As they say. The more beauty, the more power, the more these things you acquire or have, the shallower and unfulfilled, the more unfulfilled your life is going to be. There's definitely a place for the things of our desire. In moderation, sure, it's fine. God's not telling us that we can't have any kind of thing that brings us happiness in life. No. He's saying, live your life through me. See your life in a lens of Christ. And see if these things that you're doing to bring you this temporary happiness are truly going to bring you a deeper joy. Or are they just going to lead you into a spiral that's going to lead you deeper into the darkness? That's what it's all about. And so Paul is referencing these events from the Tower of Babel, but what is amazing is God at the Tower of Babel disinherited all the nations except for Israel. And Paul in Athens, when he references this time during when God disinherited these nations, he is in the process of God's reclamation of all these nations. He's reclaiming all these nations. He's saying, it is time to come home now. Come home to me. What does he say in Acts 17 towards the end here? Acts 17:30. We'll start with 29. Being then God's offspring, we ought not to think that the divine being is like gold or silver or stone, an image formed by the art and imagination of man. We not ought think that God is something that we create. That is just our desires, our idols of wealth, money, pride, sex, beauty, these idols are fleeting, dying like the rest of the world. And he says then in verse 30, the times of ignorance God overlooked. The times of ignorance God overlooked, but now he commands all people everywhere to repent, because he has fixed a day on which he will judge the world in a righteousness by which by a man whom he has appointed. And of this he has given assurance to all by raising him from the dead. He has excused the ignorance. He has overlooked it. But now, even though he disinherited all those nations, now he is calling them all home. He's calling them all back home. You have been away too long. Come home to me. I've let you go out there, and the prodigal son, I let you go out there and spend all your money on women and booze and gambling. I've let you do everything to your heart's desire in your life. When are you going to finally wake up and see that it's never going to bring you happiness? Are you going to keep rejecting me, the source of all that is good, because you think, no, I'm going to say that God, that Jesus Christ isn't the source of all this good. I'm going to say he doesn't even exist at all. I'm going to say, I don't truly trust in what he's guiding me towards. I'll say, maybe I'll put my faith in Christ in words, but never truly in deeds and actions. And I'm going to say, I still think that I can bring the true meaning of life out. I still think that I can only rely upon myself. Because many Christians that I talk to seem to think that being a Christian is just this idea. Just this basically coping mechanism. And by the way, that's what unbelievers think of us too, that we're all coping. Many of them do. This coping mechanism in order to find meaning and purpose and strength and hope in our life. But let me take you to, let's see, Psalm 46. God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble. Therefore we will not fear, though the earth gives way, though the mountains be moved into the heart of the sea, though its waters roar and foam, though the mountains tremble at its swelling. Come, behold the works of the Lord, how he has brought desolations on the earth. He will make wars cease to the ends of the earth. He will break the bow and shatter the spear. He burns the chariots with fire. Be still and know that I am God. And he's giving a prophecy here, just as he does in many of the Psalms, of what's going to happen in the times of Paul. I will be exalted among the nations. I will be exalted on the earth. The Lord of hosts is with us. The God of Israel is our fortress. A very present help in times of trouble. If you don't trust in that, then you are missing out on the greatest gifts that Christ is giving you. I understand it's hard to give your trust fully to anything or anyone, and nothing else is worthy of that trust. No one or no thing is. But if we put our trust in anything in this world, and we all do, we're putting our trust in something to give us meaning or purpose. If it's not God, it's something of the world. Every single one of us do this. But it's that house of cards. One good breeze and it blows away. Tanya says, no, he did not do you believe everything you read, 1844 after death. Not sure who you responded to. Tanya. I know I jumped in here. Tanya was saying, let every man be a liar and let God be true. God cannot lie. That's absolutely right, Tanya. There's never anything that we are going to put our faith in. And here's what we do. Like, let's say, like, you're like, but no, I can put my faith in my wife or my children and my mother. Here's what you do when you're putting your trust in them. You are saddling them. You are putting a chain around them with your expectations. Like, this is why I'm when I'm telling people to, I'm trying to help people feel God's presence in their life, and they're going out and they are saying, these people just they stick their nose up at me, that they're doing awful things, they're mocking me, or they hate me, or whatever. I'm like, but you are saddling them with your expectations. Who cares? If somebody hates you for simply existing, now if you did something horrible to them, that's a different, obviously. You gotta reflect on what you've done. But again, even if you have done something horrible to them, change things right now. Start treating them with a kindness and affection and a love. That's all we can do, because that's what Christ tells us to do. And again, there is no more fruitful worldview. There is no more lens on reality that is ever going to lead you to more fulfillment and to more peace and joy and hope. And that is to engage in the Christian art of war, which is radical love and forgiveness. So when you hear people saying that, okay, well, I've got these, maybe I'm trying to think of something, like I've got cousins or something, or aunts and uncles, or a part of my distant family who, or even close family, who treat me like trash. They think they're better than me in every way. They mock me. They talk down to me. They, fill in the blank, because we all know people like this, right? And maybe we're the people that are doing that. Again, reflect. But you have to remember that they are just as lost, if not more, just as broken, if not more, just as alone and desperate for what Christ is offering. Now, this isn't to say that everybody's going to respond to the love that you show them, the forgiveness that you give them. It's not about that. Jesus doesn't tell us to forgive people for their sake. He tells us to forgive people for our sake. For instance, if somebody hurt somebody you love, you have every right to feel vengeful, to be angry at them, and to hate them. But what is that going to do that is good for you? What is going to holding on to that, or what is holding on to that hate and that anger going to ever accomplish in your life? Give you the satisfaction of vengeance when you, if and when you get a chance to carry that out? And if you never get a chance to carry out that vengeance, then maybe you'll go and seek vengeance on something else. Just like a pressure release. Maybe somebody who doesn't deserve your anger, you're going to just vent on them. Here's psychologically, and this is another profound thing about what Christ teaches us. Psychologically, when we feel anger, our minds ache. And we are so uncomfortable in that aching that our minds are like, you need to get us out of this state. And the only logical way that the mind thinks to do this is, like I said, that pressure release valve, and that is through retribution and revenge. That's it. And to project that hate out to something, if not to the target. But Jesus Christ is saying, here's the better way, the way that you will find makes your life more fulfilled and more peaceful, and you are then not adding on to the problem of the evil and darkness in the world. You are then completely reversing it. You are putting a stop to it at the very least. Instead of seeking retribution or expressing that hate, you say, no, I forgive you. I forgive you. Especially when you don't deserve it. And what does Christ say? The ones who are forgiven a little, love a little. Those who are forgiven a lot, love a lot. And if somebody that doesn't deserve it is forgiven by you, one of the greatest examples is, and forgive me, I forget the man's name. There was a great kickboxer, one of the world's best kickboxers, and he was teaching his son how to drive a stick shift. He was like 16 years old, I believe, and a man shot his son 6 times, and he died in his arms. And this man, who was literally, could have killed him with his bare hands, right? He was a walking weapon. He didn't do any of that. He didn't do what all of us would have never blamed him for doing, in going and seeking revenge and hating this man. He forgave this man who killed his son, and he went to the prison all the time, like on a regular basis, to preach the gospel to this man. He gave up his, oh, thank you, brother. He gave up his career as a trainer. He was training people in kickboxing. He gave up all kinds, basically everything in his life, and he devoted it completely to Christ. And do you think that this man who killed his son for no reason, when he forgave him, do you think that he was grateful for that? Or do you think he's like, no, he deserved to die? No, he was absolutely grateful. And then you have a hardened murderer, a gang member, being saved by the grace of Christ, And you are taking out all of this darkness. This could have easily kept spiraling for the murderer and for the father. I know many of us who have children can't even imagine losing a child, especially in that way, when somebody takes us from them needlessly. And the world tells us we have every right to spiral out of control into that hate and misery. We do. Christ is telling us what's going to benefit you. What will that benefit you? What will you get out of that? Is that going to bring you some kind of joy that you seek revenge on them? Let's say you go and kill the person, right? You go and kill them in a rage. And then maybe you're locked up for the rest of your life, or maybe not. Maybe a jury's like, we get it. We get it. You deserved to kill that man from what he did. Or a jury's like, no, he was already going to be caught by the police or in police custody, and you killed him. Either way, it's a spiral for everyone involved, except when you do what Jesus Christ taught. Don't you see that this worldview is so much deeper than most people can even comprehend? It changes everything. Everything. Hey, Daniel Taylor, and Ghost by YouTube, welcome. And I'm so sorry for everybody I missed tonight. Again, I kind of mentioned it a little bit, but I've been having a lot of pain today, so I was just kind of in a fog. It kind of threw me off my game. I didn't know exactly what to talk about tonight, but I felt convicted just before I got on here to talk about Acts 17 and Paul in the temple of the unknown God, and how that related to the Old Testament as well, but how that also related to some of the things I've been seeing. I literally saw right before, probably about an hour before I got on here, I don't even know. Yeah, I just clicked on something on my phone. I by accident, really. I was tapping on something by accident, and it took me to Reddit, to the Christianity subreddit, which is the atheism subreddit, and man, the vicious things that these atheists were saying to Christians, and saying, no, this is a place for all of us. This is a place for all of us. And if you can't handle people telling you that what they said was the truth about your faith, then I guess your faith is too weak then. And it goes back to the manipulative tactics used. It really is. It's really manipulation. I am perfectly fine with people who want to not follow Christ. I'm perfectly fine. I wish they would. I pray for them. But it is when they become a stumbling block. They evangelize their unbelief. They always have to question in questions that are not genuine. It is always, what, do you really believe everything that you read? Or books that are 2,000 years old, something that you really put your trust in? It's belittling everyone because, yeah, that's it. It's a 2,000-year-old book and it says something, and that's why I believe in it. That's exactly right, atheist. That's exactly right. That's what I'm doing here. So, you know, I know I kind of just went on a rant in a couple different directions tonight, and I apologize. But again, um, I want to start talking about what Christians want to talk about, and I don't know what you want me to talk about unless you let me know. Unless you leave me a comment, not on something that's going live at the moment, because unfortunately I overlook a lot of those. But send me a comment on any one of my other videos, or go to the Discord in the description. Link is in the description, and send me a comment or a message on there, and I will focus on that for sure. Um, uh, um, Daniel was saying it goes by YouTube. I think it's an open question what Jesus would actually want Gentiles to follow. You're saying that Paul was not. Maybe I was another person. Daniel, do you not like Paul or something? There's a lot of people who were like, follow Jesus, not Paul. But literally, Jesus came. If you're looking at what he said, because he's saying, I didn't come to abolish the law. I came to fulfill the law. I came to completely fulfill the laws and the prophets, he said, which he did. It's been fulfilled. It's been completed. Its job is done, and it remains there only for us to go back into reference. Because the Old Testament is a picture of the world when God allows mankind to walk away from him. A picture of what the world looks like. If you don't like the things that you see or read in the Old Testament, if you don't like that, if you don't like, by the way, a lot of the law of Israel was, even Levitical law was based on the Code of Hammurabi, which was the main law in the entire Near East, the Babylonian laws. It was based upon that and built upon that. Maybe something God gave to the Babylonians. I don't know. Once again, all of these other nations who weren't the Israelites, God was allowing them to feel and struggle their way to him. Just like the Israelites. They weren't chosen because they were such great people and they were so much better than everybody. No, they were still just as bad as everybody else. God chose them because it was just the ark of salvation that he chose. He said, through this tiny little humble tribe, I will reveal myself slowly. So when I truly do come down, when Christ does come down in the flesh, the ones who've been waiting desperately for me will know who I am. And this is what he does. Our lives are reflected in the scriptures. They are. In most of our lives, we go away from Christ and we walk away from him and we live our lives antithetical and separated from him. And he's allowing us to. He still loves us, but he's waiting patiently, like the father waiting for the prodigal son who went and blew his money on women, booze, and gambling, finally to spend all that inheritance up, be left penniless, go working at a pig farm, and as he's eating from the slop with the pigs, saying, my father, the love that he showed even his servants, maybe that's something I should. No, I desire that now. In fact, as I'm sitting here with these pigs eating this slop out of a trough, There is nothing I desire more than the love that my Father showed even to his employees, treating them like family. So I'm going to go and ask to just be his servant. Uh, okay. Goes by YouTube says, I'm just curious why you come at Christians and not ask Jews who would likely even have better arguments to refute your ignorance. Um, oh, is it, I wonder what somebody's saying here. No. Uh, and Daniel saying like, I don't even know. Like, once again, a common thing that unbelievers, non-Christians use is look at all the bad things God allowed in the Old Testament. Again, it's the same thing that God does in our lives. Same thing that that the Father did in the prodigal son. If you love someone, let them go free. That's what love is. The father and the prodigal son did not say, no, you can't have the inheritance. You're going to sit here. You're going to stay here and do exactly what I tell you. I know you're a grown man now. Or even, no, go out and you don't need my inheritance. If you're not going to listen to what I say, then I'm not going to give you any of it. He was going and showing his son, look, here's all this money. See all the happiness it's going to get you. Go live by your desires like you've been chomping at the bit to do. See all the happiness it's going to bring you. It's going to bring you a little bit for a while, a good bit for a while, and you're going to be living it up. Go out there and feel the peaks of your ecstasy, and then watch yourself crash into the darkest depths of hell. And when you are in the darkest depths of hell, remember me, because I will be right here waiting. And when you decide to come home to me, I will throw you the biggest feast I have ever thrown. Ever. Because those who are forgiven a little love just a little. Those who have forgiven a lot, they love a lot. And the prodigal son was living the rest of his days. He probably worked harder in a week than the older brother worked in months. And he put passion into his work because he truly wanted to be there with his father. He didn't feel like the older brother said, like, he said he'd been there slaving away for his father. And his father just didn't appreciate him. But no, his father showed how much he appreciated both of his sons. But only one of them, the prodigal son, was able to see that. All right, guys. I'm so sorry. I'm trying to read a couple more. Good night, Barry. God bless you. And there's Furry and Ken. I don't even know if I said hello. I'm sorry, brothers. I mean, there's a lot of people I don't know if I said hello to Emily. So many people on here I didn't get to all of you tonight. And please, again, if there's Christians who are struggling or suffering or want me to focus on certain things, you know, I'm doing more to get into heaven and hell and the ideas on that. If that's something you want me to get more into, absolutely let me know. End times prophecies, artificial intelligence. I've been talking a little bit here and there about that because I think that's very important. I think that the end times, as Christ said, will be like the days of Noah, which is why I wanted to set this up by talking about what the days of Noah were like. How evil were they? And that evil, it had to be defeated in various ways. But what does it say in the scriptures? It said that God obviously used a great flood to wipe away that evil the first time. But what's he going to do the second time? It's going to be not with a flood of water, it's going to be with fire, Peter says. It's going to be, let's see if I can read that before I go. I think it's 2 Peter 3, maybe. No, 2 Peter 2. For if God did not spare the angels when they sinned, which was in Genesis 6, but cast them into hell and committed them to chains of gloomy darkness. Now, hell here is the only place hell is said to be Tartarus in the Greek. Tartarus is a Greek word from Greek mythology. It is a pit prison for the gods. So God, after the times of Noah, when they sinned against God to go down and marry earth women and have children called Nephilim, he then flooded the earth and chained up the angels in chains of gloomy darkness in Tartarus. If he did not spare the ancient world, but preserved Noah, a herald of righteousness, with 7 others, when he brought a flood upon the world of the ungodly, if by turning the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah to ashes, he condemned them to extinction, making them an example of what will happen to the ungodly. Another case for annihilationism again, and if he rescued the righteous Lot, greatly distressed by the sensual conduct of the wicked, for as that righteous man lived among them day after day, he was tormenting his righteous soul over their lawless deeds that he saw and heard, then the Lord knows how to rescue the godly from trials, and to keep the unrighteous under punishment until the day of judgment, and especially those who indulge in the lust of defiling passions and despise authority. Bold and willful, they do not tremble as they blaspheme the glorious one, whereas angels, though greater in might and power, do not pronounce a blasphemous judgment against them before the Lord. But these, like irrational animals, creatures of instinct, born to be caught and destroyed, blaspheming about matters of which they are ignorant, will also be destroyed in their destruction, suffering wrong as the wage for their wrongdoing. They count it pleasure to revel in the daytime. They are blots and blemishes, reveling in their deceptions, while they feast with you. They have their eyes full of adultery, insatiable for sin. They entice unsteady souls. They have hearts trained in greed, accursed children. Forsaking the right way, they have gone astray. They have followed the ways of Balaam, the son of Beor, and whom loved gain from wrongdoing, but was rebuked for his own transgressions. A speechless donkey spoke with a human voice and restrained the prophet's madness. And it goes on and on and on. They are waterless springs and mists driven by a storm, for them the gloom of utter darkness has been reserved. For speaking loud boasts of folly, they entice this by sensual passions of the flesh those who are barely escaping from those who live in error. They promise them freedom, but they themselves are slaves of corruption. For whoever overcomes a person, to that he is enslaved. Or, I'm sorry, to whatever overcomes a person, to that he is enslaved. The very last verse in this chapter, because it's very long, is maybe one of the best, because referencing the Proverbs, it says, what the true proverb says has happened to them. The dog returns to its own vomit, and the sow, after washing herself, returns to wallow in its mire. All right, guys. I better get off of here. Yeah, the back is telling me it's time. I went a little longer than I probably should have, but please reach out to me and let me know. Again, I don't know what to focus on unless you all tell me, and I will absolutely try to focus on those topics that you are maybe struggling with or thinking about, or if you just want to speak to somebody because you are struggling or suffering through something in life. I'm here for you. I love you guys so much. God bless you. I'll be back tomorrow.